Here are the stories that we're tracking for you today. Decision time. On Tuesday, President Biden meeting with G7 leaders about the situation in Afghanistan, many of whom have been putting public pressure on the U.S. to keep troops in the country past the August 31st deadline in order to continue evacuation efforts. Biden ultimately determining with the Pentagon that the U.S. will stick to the deadline, despite concerns that all Americans and vulnerable Afghans will not be out by that date, but has requested contingency plans to adjust the timeline if necessary. Evacuations have picked up at a remarkable pace recently. A total of approximately 21,600 people were evacuated from Kabul on Monday. The Taliban had warned there would be consequences if Americans remained in the country beyond the planned withdrawal date. Florida remains the epicenter of the latest coronavirus surge in the U.S. and continues to set all of the wrong kind of records. Florida just became the third state in the country to reach 3 million cases of COVID-19, a total surpassed by only 15 countries in the entire world. And it's the first state where the daily deaths in the current wave have exceeded all previous waves. More than 17,000 Floridians are currently hospitalized. 90% of those patients are unvaccinated, and the majority of them are younger.
20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, and it's devastating to watch them die. And it can all be preventable by a vaccine that we know is safe and that we know is very effective.
Airbnb providing refuge to Afghan refugees. On Tuesday, the home-sharing company opened the doors of its properties to 20,000 Afghans and sought more assistance from hosts who rent property through the site for more free housing for those fleeing the crisis. CEO Brian Chesky said on Twitter, quote, "The displacement and resettlement of Afghan refugees in the U.S. and elsewhere is one of the biggest humanitarian crises of our time. We feel a responsibility to step up." The 2020 Tokyo Paralympics is here, the opening ceremony kicking off the Games on Tuesday. The parade of athletes is always the centerpiece of the ceremony, but perhaps even more so this year. The first team to enter the stadium for the procession was the refugee Paralympic team, which is making just its second appearance in the Games. In a show of respect for the country's 2 Paralympians, the flag of Afghanistan was carried into the parade by a Paralympic volunteer. The athletes from Afghanistan were unable to fly to Tokyo safely because of the chaos surrounding the Taliban takeover of the country. A new deal for Broadway. Nearly 80% of Broadway and off-Broadway show writers were white, according to an annual study, as were 85.5% of directors and 61% of actors during the 2017-2018 season, the latest time frame analyzed. Some on Broadway are trying to change that. A wide coalition of theater owners, producers, union leaders, creators, and casting directors have hammered out a series of reforms and commitments for the theater industry to ensure equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. The New Deal emerged following a summit of industry leaders organized by Black Theater United earlier this year. This is a pledge. Now we need to see the results.